Hi, hey, over here. My name is Jeff Gabriel from saw.com, and I want to give you a little bit of background before I give my appraisal of this domain name, FEM.org. I was actually asked a few days ago to do a domain appraisal of revealall.com, and there seemed to be quite a few different people that watched it, and a colleague of mine asked to appraise this one. So here it is. And if you're interested in getting a domain appraised on video, maybe I'll do it. Send me an email at buzz, at saw.com. Okay, so I'm looking at name pros. So someone is asking me to appraise fem.org, 28-year-old name in the evergreen and ever-growing fem space. 3-letter word, registered in 200 TLDs, developed sites, strongest currently available name in this space. Practically a category killer. Number of obvious and less obvious end users have already been approached, but there hasn't been any interest yet. It's really the kind of name that needs to sit until the right buyer comes along and hits the buy it now. At the same time, I've had a few wholesale offers from members here have come in at around $4,000, roughly the acquisition cost. A $5,000 offer likely would have been accepted. All right, my turn. What's your market value appraisal? Where would you actually price it at for retail and wholesale? And what would your floor be? And what would be your overall strategy be with a name like this? Well, I was offering appraisals, but if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, maybe we shall. So, Mr. Doms, the first thing that I would do, this. All right. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to Google the name and I'm going to look at the results. So immediately Google or the AI overview is telling me FEM most commonly stands for the finite element method, a computer-based mathematical technique. I'm guessing what you're talking about being FEM is FEM as in women being the category killer or feminine. I see FEM-ER, your FEM as representing European manufactured materials handling. I think I've looked at this before. European Materials Handling Federation. For some reason, it's called FEM. Interesting. This doesn't look like they are really needing to go out there and shake the trees. There's their email, fem-eur. This certainly would be a target, but in my experience, these kinds of groups don't spend a whole heck of a lot on domain names. I'd be curious to see what their endowment is. European Materials Handling Federation. European, what? I already forgot what it is. They should definitely call themselves European Materials Handling Federation, European Materials Handling Federation endowment. I'm going a little bit down the rabbit hole, but I just wanted to see what they got. Kind of public thing. 1,000 corporate entities across Europe. Standard funds. So this is a pretty big nonprofit. But let's just get back into FEM. You're saying it's a category killer and potentially the best available when it comes to this, meaning feminine, I guess. I'm still really having a hard time. Short for FEMA. I'm not really seeing, again, a lot of corporate obvious things. Finite element method by Siemens. I mean, FEM is searched a lot, 14,000 times a month in the US alone. I'd be interested to see what this is. Looks like another nonprofit. Fem versus fem, finite. I'm not really seeing much about women here, so I'm not really sure what you mean by this is a category killer. Category killer would be women, right? Again, I'm not really seeing a ton. Oh, I see a product here, personal care product named Fem, the TV series. And again, there's a lot more places that we can look here and see what targets are there, but just trying to get a feeling of what the market demand is. Now, if I look and it looks like we're in New York City here, and there's all kinds of billboards and advertising and links and things going on. It's a very clear, obvious outcome that if it looks like Times Square, you got yourself something that has a lot of demand. Now we have FEM full form, FEM math, okay, FEM engineering, FEM physics, FEM model, what the FEM login is. So let's look at these real quick. I like to see this. Making a meaningful difference, okay. An insurance company, are they a nonprofit? I don't know. Let's pretend they are. That's a good opportunity. Finite element method, we're getting back into this. Not great. It's the same again. Not excited. Not exciting. Not exciting. Not exciting. All right, so to be quick here, I'm just looking at targets real quick. And I always like to look and see what my market is because, oh, here we go. So what I like to do here is just really get an understanding of what my market is, just doing some different ways that I want to potentially get money from this domain name and looking at the market and the demand on the name itself. So I can see that we are FEM. I can see that there's a product, FEM USA, that is hair removal and some other women's products here, which is great. But again, that looks like it's part of a big corporate entity. And is it really that important for them to have this online presence, or do they rely on these products being sold in the store? So sometimes it's a hard sell to these companies who want to pay anything. Then there's from this, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, FEMSA. Nope, this isn't really a fit. You're really pushing it if you're calling Coca-Cola, telling them to buy it. So I'm going to say that's not an option. We're back to here again. We're back on this one again. We're back her again. All right. Manufacturing lingerie, Femme Intimates. Again, this is not a nonprofit. It's hard to convince people to upgrade or get a better name that isn't a nonprofit. Okay, Wix, not happening. All right, and then we have Fair, which I guess is called Femme Wholesale. All right, so I did a little digging on ChatGPT. I did some digging on Claude a little bit to find some of these targets. I'm not really seeing them. Not really super excited at what I see. I'm also not seeing anything here that makes it a category killer. Category killer in this market would be feminine. Let's see what's on feminine.org. Is there anything there? But I would also be looking at women.org, seeing what's out there as a category killer. It's for sale. Okay. Women.org. Okay, and I know that I was involved in the women.com sale, so that was a very good place for women in news and a community involved in that. Great. So I'm going to start looking into, you said I was registered in 200 extensions. That's great. I'm going to look at name bio. I want to look at different comps. I'm going to start to go down this rabbit hole. And I'm going to think to myself, okay, let's start just seeing if this domain is sold and if there's any other information on other names that are called FEM. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do this. I'm going to do placement at the start. I'm going to look at the range. So I'm going to leave that alone for now to see what comes up. A lot of crap here, a lot of really low dollar deals. So what I would do is you got to get a paid account and get a little more out of this. So if we look here, FEMS, FEMMES. All right, so when I look here and I see comps from 2008, 2007, that was another universe ago. But right here, I see FEM.ai sold for 60K 2 years ago. Has the .a market gone up? Yes. You could argue that this domain is probably worth 20% or 30% more than what it was 2 years ago. Potentially even more money than it was than that. But that's a pretty decent comp right there, right in front of your face. FEM.com sold in 2008 for 50K. Not a good comp. It's aged out. It would be nice, even if you saw it now, you'd know there's something wrong with that sale, right? But then we have females, again, old comp. I'm guessing that's probably adult. And then FEMS, okay, again, another old comp. So those kind of aged out. I'm going to lower or make my date range. I'm going to do the last 3 years. I really feel that's kind of too long in a lot of cases as well, but it's nice to look at it. And I personally don't like to look at looking for comps that have the exact same keyword. I actually don't like doing that. What I like to look at is the word fem, which again, we're going with feminine, is kind of a broad term that doesn't necessarily have, it's not the exact meaning, it's not the exact spelling, it's not 100% what you said as this category killing name. It's kind of a very broad keyword. And so what I look for are other more broad, non-specific keywords. But in this particular case, I just wanted to see, because you mentioned that you bought it recently at wholesale, what that could be. So you bought it 2 years ago, $3,700. Thought you got a pretty good deal there, right? We have FEM.ai for 60K. All right. So let's just keep those in mind. All right. I think the easy way of looking at this right now, if I wanted to get lazy with it, but I'm going to dig a little bit more, and if I was in a rush, which I kind of am right now anyway, is I would probably say your retail or list price, I'd probably put this times 8 or 9 on it, which would bring you up to, let's just make it easy, 35K list price, maybe a little bit higher. I'd definitely prefer FEM.ai. Now, I don't see anything coming up on it, so let's see what's on FEM.ai. It goes to cadence.com. Cadence is a great name. I'm really interested that they paid, why they paid 60K for this. I'm sure there's some story behind it, or the company that bought it was purchased by these guys, or there was a rebrand, which I'm not necessarily going to go down that rabbit hole right now. All right, so then what I would probably do is take this keyword, get rid of it. All right, and I kind of have, in my opinion, I'm kind of at a point right now where I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm in the range of 25,000 on the low end, which you're probably cringing, Mr. Doms. But on the high end, let's bring it up to the 60 grand of FEM.ai that it sold for. So let's start looking for .orgs that are similar to FEM that sold in a reasonable price range and in the past 3 years. And we can even maybe bring it down to 2. But let's keep it at 3 for now and see what we see. This is pretty broad, and that's a, that is a wholesale price, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's very broad, kind of like FEM, euro. Obviously it's a currency, but there you go. 2-letter AF. I'd have to look into see how many options there are with AF, but I think this is definitely superior to it. Join.org on NameJet. Again, I'm guessing that it's probably a wholesale price, but that's a lot to pay wholesale for .org, in my opinion, even though .orgs are selling for good money. I don't know what SIF means. If we get into SIF, I would say SIF is inferior, but I want to see what it means. State Insurance Fund, okay. So instead of going deep into this, and let's see what our most obvious would be. Why would someone pay that? It's interesting how it's a block name. So I don't know if a company bought that. But I would say that FEM is definitely worth more than SIF, because based on my bit, but it just seems like that was kind of paid a lot for. So I'm going to trim down the length a little bit because there's a lot of results here. So I would probably go between 3 and 5. Let's see what we can get. All right, again, I still think FEM is a pretty, and I'm going on the data that I have and really just kind of going with it without spending an hour with everybody on this loom. But looking at this, honestly speaking, I would probably look at this and I would say to myself, I like grants more than FEM all day. All right. It's more specific. I think it's a better name. I think join is extremely broad and doesn't really have as much of that much of a meaning. To join what? Join anything, join something. Call to action, I think is better than FEM. I'd take join all day. So we're at two names that are at 58, 55. So to me, I feel like we're getting down something closer into the 40s or the 30s. So let's start looking here. SIF, I think sold for more than what it's worth. And it's not as good as FEM, but I don't know. Maybe that I'd have to dig on that one a bit. That's kind of throwing me for a loop. DCF, again, I don't know what that means. Again, I kind of feel like that's pretty high. Let's see what's on DCF. Because three-letter.orgs don't usually sell for this kind of price, but okay, we have the charitable foundation, whatever this means. I'm getting like crap for answers, but there's a reason why. Okay, 40 years of generosity, 530 million. So, okay, there you go. There's a reason why they paid a lot for that. So I would kind of say that that's kind of hitting the nail on the head, which you might be able to get from that European Union that we looked at earlier. It's not a union, but you know what I mean. But again, and it's like I feel like Zama isn't as good as FEM, but I'm sure there's something behind it. But then we look at fusion.org is really good. I like that more than FEM. Sold for less, but at drop catch. So again, is this domain a wholesale or a retail price or retail bidder? Let's see. Looks like they bought it. Looks like they bought it as a flip. That's a lot of money to spend on that, but hey, good for them. Dual.org, not as good, right? So I'm saying that looking at a lot of these comps where there are some that are higher than what I think would bring up the value. I think again on the lower end you're about 10x around there, 35, 33,000 on it. I'm not that excited about what I'm seeing over here. I would be thinking that on the high end, if you wanted to put a list price on it, I'd probably say it settles in this area, 45 grand. That's the feeling I'm getting here, looking at these comps and looking at this information. I can look at .db here. I don't need to. 200 extensions is good. I'm not going to sit here and open every single extension, but I narrowed it down here. I don't think, like I said before, I don't think it's a good idea to sit here and just type the word FEM and do any and then use those as your comps, because that doesn't, even if we got rid of the limitations, that doesn't do anybody any favors, right? These aren't good comps, right? Well, that is. So I would go from there. And that's, how I feel about it. Now, let's get over here to what you're talking about. What's your market value appraisal? I would again say between 35 and 45,000 in a quick appraisal that I just did right here. Where would you actually price it for retail and wholesale? Well, that's kind of what it is. I would say that I would put a list price on it of like 45 grand. Wholesale, I mean, you paid 3,500 bucks for it. Wholesale market's gone up. I think these people are a little low. I think if you can get like 6 grand on wholesale, good, take it. But I don't think you're planning on doing that right there. What my floor would be, the floor with any situation with anything, with any of my clients that come to me and ask me for advice, is I like to, again, look at your targets, look at the group around you. I really think that there's only a handful of people that are actually going to be wanting to buy this at a premium from you. And one of them is that group, that nonprofit, which has a terrible domain name, fem-uer.com. I think that this would be my first stop along the way. I would probably start looking at the people who work there and what they're doing. Now they have X. Let's see. Is it just put it on there because they felt like they had to? Have they abandoned it? Or are they making a lot of posts on a regular basis? Okay, their last post was April 13th. This is not a good sign. Oh, December 2nd. I'm sorry, they pinned that one. So their last one was December 2nd. So I don't think, and then before that was September. So this doesn't seem like they care as much about their web presence. Maybe they'll care more about their email. And I think that there's a good possibility that you might be able to get something out of them. After that, from what I saw, there isn't a ton of options that are really clear. So when somebody asks me, what would be your floor? I'd like to understand how long you've owned the domain, what kind of offers you made, who have you contacted, what are the situations, what are the offers, and who you got them from. And then you really need to determine, are you going to play the long game or do you want to play the short game? So just going into it and saying, my list price is 45, but I'm going to put a floor at 25. I'd rather talk to whoever is working on the lead or think about it myself and look at what the situation is and try to understand who the buyer is and really make that determination. And what would your overall strategy be for a name like this? Well, I think the first step is obviously you have it for sale on this for sale lander. So I look at FEM.org. Okay, it's pink, which is nice. So if I go through the steps, show the price, it says you got pink, which is nice. So I see FEM.org is available for purchase. Very clear, very nice lander from Name Pros. Here's who you are, I guess. So if I click on that, I just want to see where I go. I don't really understand why you would be sending them here when you're having them come here. It seems like a distraction to me, but that's just me. That's a conversation for another day. So if I just put Jeff Gabriel in here and I do jeff@star.com and 71, here we go. Show me the price. I am a human. Give me the price. I got to confirm my email. All right, I'll confirm it. Show me the price. So if I click on the confirm my email, my offer is declined. So I'm going to give him a $3,000 offer because I know he's not going to take it. 25 grand. So there you go. So I was within that realm. I went high. I was trying to go for it. So there you are. I went higher than you wanted. So I still think that that's a fair price. I think it's a pretty good one. And I do think I was in that, that realm for you. But I would certainly focus on that company. And I think that one of the things that you should be looking at, so hang on a second. All right, so I was saying you should probably potentially focus on this group. This would be a potential target, but the more I read about it, the more I feel sour about it. And the more I feel sour about it, the less I like this opportunity. And I'm still kind of going back to my gut, where I'm not totally in love with this domain name. But I would say hello to... All right, so I'm not really excited about, okay, so the more I dig up this nonprofit, the more I start to notice that a lot of the people that do work for the nonprofits, kind of like the ICA in our domain community, where it's not always a lot of people's full-time job, and that a lot of them work at different places. So yes, she's the Secretary General at FEM, but she's also spending her time at a place called Area. And when I find other people, they all have other jobs. And then when I go to the corporate page, which doesn't make me feel great, is saying they have like one employee. Hey, Jeff Gabriel over here. If you got this far, thanks for listening. Really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Thank you again.